Welcome to Truth and Justice with Vivian King. We've planned another exciting show for you tonight. You know, my role is to seek the truth about the criminal justice system, to talk about someone's case in different cases so that we can ask questions and be stimulated and learn about the criminal justice system in Harris County. Tonight I have a real exciting guest for you. His name is Anthony Childress. He's been in the news because he was beaten by HPD officers, and we're going to talk about his background and what happened with him. And also I have Sister Krystal Muhammad. Let her give you her formal name. Tell me what it is.
Krystal Muhammad, and I'm the chairperson for the new Black Panther Party here in Houston, Texas.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Ms. King, for having me here.
Thank you. All right, Anthony, you know, we just jumped straight into it, so I want to find out, let's talk a little bit about you. What area of town were you raised in Houston?
Well, I was raised all over Houston. I went to school in the South, North, East, and West. I'm just from Houston.
Okay. But your high school days were spent in the Sugar Land area, is that right?
Yes, I actually went to Kempton High School.
In Sugar Land. Okay. Yes. All right. And then, unfortunately, like a lot of young black men, you got in a little trouble trying to protect your brother. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, I was actually in the back of a car with, sleep when my brothers got in an altercation with a guy, and he pulled the M14 out and was actually, pointed the gun at the car and was fixing to shoot my brothers. And my mother had her gun in the glove compartment, and I ended up shooting him first.
Well, you know, in Texas, you have a right to defend another person. You can defend yourself if there's danger, and you can defend another person. It's called defense of a third party. And one of the things that's interesting about that story is that you said a guy pulled a, what'd you say, AK-47?
M14.
What is an M14?
It's a mini machine gun, like a Uzi. It looked like a Uzi.
So somebody actually pulled a Uzi out on your brother. Mm-hmm. And one brother or two brothers?
One of my brothers.
Okay, and so you sleep and you wake up and I'm sure you're shocked about it. I mean, you heard the noise, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what'd you do?
Immediately, I looked over the edge of the car to see who he was arguing with, and when I looked over the edge of the car, the boy was pulling up in his shirt saying, "I got something for this." And that's when I jumped over the front seat, opened the glove compartment, and pulled my mama's, little gun out there and shot him.
What kind of gun was it?
I really don't remember. It was so long ago.
And you were just a kid yourself. How old were you? 17?
17.
Wow. And so you shot the guy. Obviously, he didn't die.
No.
But then you got arrested.
Yes.
And why did you get arrested for shooting someone and you were defending your brother? Wasn't the guy's big machine gun still on him?
Well, see, at that time, I don't live, I don't know, because at that happened, I just told my brothers to get in the car and they drove off, so I don't know if he had the gun on him or not.
Okay.
But when we finally ended up coming to court about it, when I was asked about it, I told him that I did it, and I told him why. And so I was placed on probation because of that.
Okay, but I guess a lawyer like me would ask, now if I was your lawyer, I wouldn't let you plead guilty to that because you have a right to defend your brother. If somebody is pulling a gun on him, you had a right to shoot the guy if he pulled a gun on your brother. So that's a case that I would have gone to trial on and pled you not guilty. And the law says that, say like after y'all go through the facts of the case in a trial, and then the judge is the person who gives the law to the jury, okay? And the law would have said what the prosecutor said, that, you shot him, okay, fine. But if you find, jury, that Anthony Childress was protecting another person from danger, and they would name the guy's name, and he pulled a gun on his brother, he has a right under Texas law to protect his brother by shooting him, to use deadly force with deadly force. And if you believe that he used that deadly force to counter deadly force when his brother was in danger, you must find him not guilty. Most lawyers plead you. They don't even know that's what the law says. And I had a client, and he'll be on the show sometime in the next few months, that had a case where he shot somebody 4 times and killed him. And it was under a similar circumstance. But everybody, it was gang related, and when he shot him, the gang members, he shot a gang member, they came and took the gun off the guy. So when the police and the paramedics got there, the gun wasn't there. But we were lucky. This young man was off for 40 years. A lawyer was about to plead him to 40 years. And we went to trial, and the jury found him not guilty. and they believed him. So I'm just letting you know that that's a case that you shouldn't have. But lawyers just plead you out and say, well, you know, you're scared of going to prison, because on a case like that, if you really aggravated assault with a deadly weapon is when you really shoot somebody for no reason, not because you're protecting yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
So at 17, you pled guilty to a crime that you should have gone to trial and been found not guilty of, and you got placed on probation.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So that's what happened to you when you were a young man, and after that you've had a few other skirmishes with the law, mostly having to do with girlfriends and family members. Is that right?
Well, not actually my family, just the way they worded on the paper. I only had a problem with girlfriends.
Yeah, but under Texas law, if you live with someone, say like if all of three of us live together and we have a fight, that's assault on a family member. Because we're roommates, or because we're lovers, or because we're related. It's like a catch-all, but it's even roommates. Or if you've even had a love relationship in the past, you're still called assault on a family member.
They need to change that. Because if you not blood related to me in any shape, form, or fashion, I don't care if we are sleeping, you not my family.
I know it. But anyway, one of the reasons why I do this show, like I said, is to talk about real situations and explain what the law is. And so, like, if you have a misdemeanor and it's a family member, it's hyped up more than just a fight on two dudes. Then the next time, what is it? The next time it's a felony. You can't have a gun for 5 years. I mean, a lot of your rights, even as a misdemeanor, are taken away because of that quote-unquote family member.
That's right.
And the punishment is a lot greater, even though it might just be a misdemeanor. So you had another altercation with a girlfriend where she tried to run over you, because she, you know, and you protected yourself in that situation. But since you're the man, you ended up with the case.
Yes.
Basically, that's it.
That's exactly how it happened.
In the criminal justice system, we laugh because if two men have a fight, the one who loses is always the one that's the victim. But sometimes the one who loses is the one who started it. He just got whipped. And that's what happens a lot. And I try a lot of assault cases, girl on girl, guy on guy. And, you know, it's all in the criminal justice system. We realize that the loser is always the victim, but not really. And so that's why you go to trial on those cases, because you have a right to what? Defend yourself. Right. And if the jury believes you were defending yourself, you get found not guilty. All right. So that's a little bit about your past. Now, I know that one of the reasons why I was interested in your story is because I know that you have been beaten up by the police, and it happened shortly after the Chad Holly video was released.
Yes, sir.
So tell me about that.
Well, on October the 2nd, I was actually going to one of my friend's house, and I was traveling north down Delano, and as I was riding Delano, I heard some cars I know made the corner and was coming up behind me.
Now, when you say you were going down Delano, how were you going? Were you walking?
I was actually riding on my bicycle on the sidewalk.
Okay.
And as I was traveling to my friend's house on the bicycle, I was coming up. I was just coming from down by Rosalie, going north up towards Anita. When, as I was crossing over Anita, a car, turned in and, slammed on its brakes. And it almost hit my back tire, but because the road, because I was coming, down the road, and the road got like a little slump in it, and you got a ditch on the right side and a ditch on the left, and then the sidewalk is real torp.
Can you hold that thought for a moment, please? Caller, you're on. Caller, you're on. I don't know if the phone is working. It's not doing anything. Okay. All right. So you're driving around the hump. Try to describe that again.
Okay. Well, I was crossing over a street named Anita. As I was crossing over the street, because the street kind of raggedy, as I was crossing over, coming down the hump part of the street, I was, by the ditch, and the sidewalk is in the middle, and the car turned in on, and it, like, and almost hit me, like they tried to scare me. But because I was still crossing over the street, as I was coming down the hump, whoever was in the car said, "Hey," like that. But I never looked back because, like I said, it was a ditch on the right and the left side of the road. And as I was coming to the sidewalk, it was a big curve in there, and I tried to avoid it.
Can you hold that thought one more time?
Yes.
Caller, you're on. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, how you doing, Miss King?
You.
I'm pretty good. Just sitting here watching your show like I do every Wednesday.
Oh, thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You made earlier, Anthony was saying that when he was helping defend his brother,
Yes, sir.
that you have a right to defend yourself or someone else that you're with.
Yes, sir.
Similar to the case, to what's going on in Florida with the young Trayvon Martin case.
Well, Trayvon Martin had a right to defend himself if he'd had a weapon to defend himself on that man, that neighborhood watch guy, because it sounds like that neighborhood watch guy, the way it's been reported, hunted him down just like a target. Yeah. So, it sounds like if that little boy knew that that man had a weapon, he should have pulled one and tried to shoot him. Don't you think he was just a moving target?
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
That's what I think.
He had been told to stand down, and he was following him in a vehicle.
That was cold-blooded. And that man needs to go to jail. I don't mind the police waiting, because of the public outcry. I think it's going to be properly investigated. Sometimes police do file charges too quickly. So, let them, give them about a week. But I think Al Sharpton, a lot of leaders are going down there, and it's a lot of public, it's on the news every day. I watch CNN and all those shows, MSNBC, and it's on all the time. So I think the right thing is going to happen. I think that they're going to charge that man, because they're talking about other altercations that he's had, actually. That man has been violent in the past, and his neighborhood watch group was not registered, which is required in that city. So he hunted that little boy down like a dog.
Yeah, and the elephant in the room is if that was a black guy that shot down a little white guy, he'd have been indicted immediately.
Immediately, and that's one of the reasons why, as we know, that's why I'm doing this show, that's why Krystal does her show, and that's why we need to be more involved in the criminal justice system as minorities. We're taxpayers. We need to all be at the table. We all need a seat at the table so we can make sure that, white people shouldn't be discriminated against and treated worse, but our kids shouldn't be treated worse either. And so we need to make sure that it's fair. Do you want to have another comment, caller?
Well, what I was asking really, so Texas have a law similar to what they have in Florida.
I know Texas law, but I can't tell you Florida law. I know in Texas, if Trayvon knew that man was coming after him, he could have shot him. And he would have been in his right. If that man pulled a gun on him and said, stop to that little boy, and the boy turned around and shot him, under the law, he might still get tried for it. Because remember, we're talking about trials. And in the case that Anthony had when he was a young man, some lawyer told him to plead guilty. But the lawyer didn't tell him the law is you don't have to plead guilty to this. You can go to trial. A lot of lawyers and people are afraid to take that chance. I'm just not that kind of lawyer. But the law says a lot of times the prosecutors will charge him with it because he's the one that shot somebody. But they're not standing in his shoes. So remember, they find the police, the paramedics find somebody shot on the street. Well, who did it? That's all they want to know is who did it. The person who got shot never says that I had an AK-47 or I had some big rifle on me. You're going to have independent witnesses to corroborate his story. And in his case, Anthony had his brothers and probably had some other friends around. Exactly. That could have done that, but that's the lawyer's job to investigate and find out who else is a witness to this, besides you. And if that guy, and trust me, in that situation, if that guy pulled a gun on Anthony, like Anthony said, he had pulled guns on other people too. And you can investigate and find out his past and show all the times that he's his character for being not a law-abiding citizen and pulling guns on people.
So why wouldn't a lawyer do that? Is it because of the financial situation?
I'm not going to speak on that. I'm just going to tell you I'm not a plea lawyer. Most lawyers are plea lawyers. Most lawyers want to get in, get out. I don't want to say that to be negative toward lawyers because I love my brethren, but a lot of lawyers want to get in, get out. You can be on the golf course at 2 if you're not trying a case, right? And a lot of lawyers just feel like most people are going to lose, so they're scared for their clients' lives and saying, well, if I could just take this plea. But I found in my experience is that, because I did a lot of court appointments after I left the DA's office, is that what I find with black young men is they always plead guilty to their first case because the easy way out is probation. And then they violate the probation record. And then they have a life of crime after that because you can't get a job with a felony conviction. Right. It's the first case that you should fight, not the last cases. Like you had a young man come to my office today that's a habitual. Well, the first case he didn't do. But, once you're out there at 21 with nothing to do and you got a criminal record already, you can't get a job, you end up doing wrong again. So it's the first case you should fight, not the last one. So just like he's just a victim of a system that pleads young black men on the first case because that's the easy way out. But to me, the easy way out is going to trial if he didn't do it. And at the worst case scenario, if the jury made a mistake and convicted him, which I don't think they would have, they would have given him probation. So you're still at the same place you would have been in the first place, because he was a high school student protecting his brother with a dude that obviously, and the dude ain't dead, a dude that's obviously bad. That man might not even come to court. So, but we make a mistake, I think, and like I said, that's another reason why I want to do this show, is because I've worked my butt off 12, 15 hours a day for the last 15 years, and I just see so much happening that shouldn't happen. I want to talk about it and open the conversation.
Ms. King,
Well,
you
I'm
know
saying,
you're
I
the
can say,
exception to the rule.
Ms. King, is keep up the show. I enjoy it every Wednesday.
Thank you for calling.
I wish more viewers would watch it.
Well, will you spread the word? You know, it's a cable station, but I appreciate you watching it, and let people know that it's on the World Wide Web, so you can watch it from anywhere in the world live and call in by just Googling Houston Media Source. And it's on live. Thank you for calling, sir.
Yeah.
Krystal, you wanted to make a comment?
I want to say I've been a community advocate for 20 years, since I was 19. I got in a movement around Shaka Sankofa. A lot of people knew him as Gary Graham. And I was going to be an attorney. I worked for a law firm, but you are an exception to the rule. Because one thing that got me more into social justice than the law was going into law firms and seeing lawyers turn people down that were clearly innocent just because they didn't have enough money, or they started paying and couldn't finish paying, and they tell them to plea. And even though, you know, so that's, you know, you doing this show and just seeing you over the year that I know you, you are the exception to the rule, and people should take note of that, because like you said, most lawyers do tell people plea.
I don't do it.
I knew for a fact that I had a self-defense case at the age of 17, and I even told my attorney that, but because my mama didn't have the money to keep on paying that man what he really wanted right at that time, he told my mama that we needed to plead out.
Well, see, I've never done that. I'm a poor lawyer, too. I'm not rich like those lawyers, but the guy that did the murder that I did that for, he didn't have any money. I told him, I said, and normally, you know, I charge a certain fee for murder, but I told him, just give me your mama gave me her little income tax check, because they lived at the bottom of 3rd Ward. And, but what, his show will be on, and it'll be a good one. My mother died when I was young, and the people who did it shot up his mama's house. And when he told me that, I started crying. I said, no, we're going to fight this case. You're not pleading no 40 years. He had been out for 6 months, and a lawyer he paid all the money he had was fixing to plead him to 40 years. I was like, oh no, baby. Oh, no, baby, we're going to go to court. And I said, all you have to do for me is don't get in no trouble. And he was a young man, too, but had a wife and a baby. I said, you just stay out of trouble, and I'll do this for you. So, can I take another phone call?
Yes.
Caller, you're on.
Yes, I would like to speak on the case about the 17-year-old kid being killed in Florida.
Yes, sir.
I would like to say that this guy, he was not a security guard. He was not a law enforcement official. It wasn't his call to kill that child or to do that or shoot at him or harm his life in any manner, fashion, or form. What he had done was call law enforcement, or if they had some type of security to the premises, and let them handle it. It was not his call to kill that child. That child did not have any evidence, any weapon, or anything, any fashion, or any form. And that's totally injustice, because the fact this guy's supposed to be arrested until, law enforcement figure out this puzzle on this particular case.
I totally agree. I totally agree with you, and I believe in my heart that he is going to be arrested. But I agree. But what another emphasis? It's good that it's not good that it happened, but it's good that we're having the conversation, that we keep this on the forefront in Harris County, that we remember we go and we serve our jury duty and care about our communities as minorities. Don't get out of jury duty. Say that you can be fair and impartial, because we're a fair people. And make sure that we have a seat at the table. Go vote. Make sure that people are there that are going to look out for your interests, that actually care about social justice and not just money. Right. Because that's very important. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. It was a tragedy what happened to that kid. And like everyone is saying, if that had been a black kid that killed that man, he'd be under the jail right now.
And it also has happened in Houston, Texas, too.
And it happens here. And we have to talk about it so it doesn't happen in our community. But thank you for calling in. You have another comment?
No, I would just like to say I appreciate that you bringing awareness of this particular situation, because that happened in Florida. That could happen anywhere.
It could happen anywhere. And we saw the Chad Holly beating, and as we go on with the show, hopefully you'll just, Anthony Childress was beaten by the police, and we're gonna get to that part of the conversation tonight. And that happened with him, and we want justice for him also.
And like another comment I'd like to say, it is a racist situation, because like y'all was saying, if the young kid would have flipped the script and killed that guy, believe me, he'd have been already locked up, tarred and feathered.
And it wouldn't be on the news, and nobody would ever know about it, and you wouldn't know the story. But thank God there's some honest people, because, there was a time where on that little boy somebody would have thrown a gun down. Okay? There was a time 40 years ago that kind of stuff happened. So luckily, the news was reported right, and all law enforcement and paramedics ain't crooked. You know what I mean? Because there were times in Houston that I've heard about throwdowns when I was a prosecutor, how, they would throw down, cops used to have little extra throwdown weapons in their socks, taped to the top part of their socks. Oh, yeah, there was a different time. There was a time when you threw down guns when people didn't have guns.
Now they just throw drugs down there.
Exactly. It goes back to the Houston days, because I remember something about that happening here in Houston.
Yes.
To some,
yeah, that used to happen. I've heard investigators talk about, when I was a prosecutor, I've heard investigators say, who are retired HPD and now working for the DA's office, they didn't do it, but they talked about the time when they started as young cops, what older cops used to do. So there was a time that a lot of things. So luckily, what the positive part about the little boy's case is that the media reporting him to be an unarmed kid. That went to the store. They're reporting his mother's story, because it doesn't have to be reported that way. I believe justice is going to happen.
Also 911. They did call 911. They had them on the clipping of them arguing, him and the man arguing. Right before
well, the man called 911 and other people called 911. I think the boy was on the phone with his girlfriend right before he got shot. He was on the phone with his girlfriend. So, I think the awareness needs to be there, caller, and I appreciate you calling. Yeah. Will you continue to listen to Anthony's story?
I didn't understand what you said.
I said, will you continue to listen to Anthony Childress' story about being beaten up?
Oh, exactly. I think it's a great thing what your show is doing. Like I say, bringing awareness to these issues, because it can happen anywhere.
Thank you for calling. Call me next week if you can.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Anthony, let's get on with your story.
Okay, well, after I was coming down the curb and missing the big old hole in the sidewalk, so I wish I had my paperwork with you, but on this sidewalk, it had a curve that was broken out of the was broken out, a piece was missing, and the piece where it was missing left a big old, hump in the sidewalk like this where it was missing. So if you hit that, my bike I would have flipped and landed on my face. Right. So I went more to the right to dodge that. And as I looked up, because it was so dark, he was roo barking. And you look up, as you getting closer, you see pit bulls on these trees. So I had no choice but to ride in between those trees. And as I was riding in between those trees, I looked to the left of me again just to see if these people would probably or whatever, and I look and I see, a white car right there, but I see two men running in front of the car, and I automatically I really didn't know who it was, but I kind of assumed that it might be the police. And so,
now, why did you think that? Were they in uniform?
Because I seen the blue. I seen, a light blue up here and
so they weren't
dark blue down here, but they wasn't in original police uniforms. They weren't in pinpoint shirts like they normally wear. They were actually in polo shirts, like regular cotton polo shirts.
But just the right police colors.
That's it. And even the car that they had was unmarked. Okay. It was a
But what time
car.
of night was this?
It's like 1:15 in the morning, 1:20 in the morning. And when I look back, they ran me down. Because at the time, I always carry a knife on me. Okay. And I had a buck knife, and I took my knife and I threw it because I didn't want to get shot by these police, because I hadn't had police beat me up once before, Officer Sneed, and I got him suspended off the force. But at the time, because of that incident, I knew that I could actually get shot or something bad could happen, so I took the knife and I threw the knife when I threw the knife, I looked back again, and the Mexican police was up on me in a tall white Caucasian, and they hit me in my face. And when they hit me in my face, I automatically threw my hands behind my back, you know, because I was riding up to a gate as they were coming. I was riding up to a gate, and I slammed on the brakes. Well, I ain't just like had to slam on them, but you know, I pushed the brakes, and when I turned like that so I wouldn't hit the gate, the officers was right up on me, and they hit me. And as they started hitting me, you know, because I didn't want it to get no worse, I had already threw the knife. I just threw my hands behind my back, and as they kept on hitting me, I was falling. And when I hit the ground, they kept on beating on me.
I mean, why do you think they did that?
Well, I mean, according to the police report, they had just got on duty. They had just got on duty. They were in the game task force, and you know, I don't know of any too many people that don't know, but most of the officers that come on the game task force are young officers, so they usually are trying to prove something.
Yeah, but okay, the picture that I have in my mind is you're riding late at night, going to your friend's house on a bicycle, minding your own business, and you avoiding holes in the road in 3rd Ward, a little bumpy area in the road, and you accidentally have to do some crazy maneuvers and go between some pit bulls, and the next thing you see here is cars, and then you see cops coming after you and you getting beat up. I mean, it just sounds so crazy. I mean, what do you think? I mean, I can see them trying to stop you, but I'm trying to figure out why would they stop and start just fighting them? Do you beating them up? Do you have a theory on that, Sister Krystal?
Well, I mean, it's not just a theory. That's what HPD does. They have a history of that. They call jump out boys. They call, if you fit the profile, a young black man riding by yourself, just ride down Color in the Sky at night. You'll see brothers on bikes, they pull you over. You walking, they pull you over. That's what they do. They beat you up. They pull your pants down, humiliate you. That's what they do in our community. I've seen this for 20 years.
Right. I've had shows on cavity searches. I don't know if you've got.
That's how they handle you. You know, I mean, like I said, in the Panther Party in 2002, when I first came in, I didn't really realize how violent the police department was. But the first case we ever dealt with, Haji Harris, William Wilkerson, had him in handcuffs and shot him in the back of the head.
Wow.
He was unarmed, you know, and then he got no bail. And so I started doing research looking back. Texas, well, Houston in particular, in the last 10 years, there's been over 2,200 cases. That's basically every other day. If you only got 365 days a year, they never get no bail. Nobody's going to prosecute them. So this is what they do. They recruit these young guys from Alabama, Mississippi. They don't recruit out of Houston and people who live around here. They don't live here. They can beat you up or go to tomball. Nothing's going to happen to you.
One of the things that is interesting about HPD is I have a lot of officer friends, and I don't have the same experience with the police that Sister Krystal does, but I know that a lot of them live out of county. And I think it would be more helpful if they lived in the county or in the city or in communities. You know, like you have preachers in communities, teachers in communities. And if you had officers in communities that, you know, were upstanding, that people respected, and that knew that they lived in your area, it does seem like it gives you more anonymity to do what you want to do when people don't live in your community. Can we take a call before we keep going?
Yes.
Caller, you're on. Thanks for calling.
Yes, I would like to say good afternoon to you and your panel.
Thank you.
As we speak.
Thank you.
This is my first time tuning in, and I have a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
As a young man that was beaten by the police, they should be handled the same way individuals handled off the street because they're acting like thugs. Instead of giving them some time off, they should be tried in the court. There should be new laws to implement exactly what I'm saying.
I agree with you.
In the court.
Let me tell you what
Let me finish. We have state representatives on the state level and also in Washington, D.C. The gentlemen and the young ladies should get together and try to implement some new laws so they can be handled as thugs. Secondly, I want you to elaborate on the review that I heard some talk on Magic 102 this weekend, and it seemed like they are actually handpicked and they're also powerless. Could you elaborate on that for me, please? And I'm going to get off the air.
Oh, what's your name, sir? Thank you for calling, and I appreciate you calling. You said this is the first time you've watched the show?
Yes, ma'am. I met you in your office, but we'll talk later.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
All right, we'll talk.
You're welcome.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, he brought up some good suggestions. You know, we as voters have to have the type of people there that will change the laws. The laws are there. It's just hard to make them be followed. I mean, police officers can be charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, just like Anthony Childress was charged with. He defended his brother. They can be charged with assault. They can be charged. But what Krystal is trying to say is that because police officers go into the grand jury and the DAs present the case to them, they always come out no bill. That means the cases are dismissed. And they don't get charged first. They just go in. So, for example, an officer does something. Say I'm the officer and I'm accused of beating him. I'm going to be arrested as an officer. What will happen is the DAs will prepare my case. They're going to go and they do the investigation and they take it straight to the grand jury and it gets no bill and the officer goes back on duty. That's basically what happens. Exactly. They don't get arrested first where they have to make bond like a regular person. You know, like if he's arrested the night he shoots somebody for defending his brother, he gets arrested, his family has to make a $40,000 bond, and then the DA's office has 90 days in which to indict him, which is to take his case before a grand jury. And generally, then the DAs go into this secret proceeding, which is called the grand jury, and they're going to say everything bad about Anthony, and the grand jury has to decide, is it more probable than not that it happened? And they'll just say, yes, it happened. True bill it. He's indicted, issued an indictment, and then he keeps going to court. He's been going to court for 90 days. That doesn't happen with police officers. Police officers don't get arrested. Police officers, because they're not arrested, no one is really monitoring their case. Because Anthony got arrested first, it's on a docket, it's public record. People can keep up every month when his case gets reset to follow the case. But with the police officers, since their case is, they're never charged, there's an investigation going on in the district attorney's office, you don't know what's going on. You can't monitor it. Exactly. You don't know what's going on. And so then it just gets no billed. And there is seems to be a cloak of silence. And I don't know why. I mean, to me, if I was in law enforcement, we do have to have respect for the police. I would want the bad cops gone. I mean, it's just a job. I mean, anybody can do something bad. You shouldn't want to keep bad cops there when you have thousands of police officers, because that makes the good ones look bad, and it's a lot of good ones. So it hurts.
Not only look bad, they're being hated upon because the actions. I mean, they got to remember, it's just like they tell us. One bad apple spoiled the whole bunch. So we feel the same way. It's the opposite on the other end.
In addition to that, I mean, there are plenty of police officers who is corruption in the department. They are targeted when they speak out about it. The 2,200 cases I told you about, though 80% of those are police officers reporting other police officers.
Right.
So basically, you're trying to say that these police officers are lying.
Right.
You only have 5,000 police officers. So if 2,000 are complaining against the other 3,000, it's a problem. And when you go to the doctor about a bad leg, and he's just talking about your good leg, no, we're talking about the bad leg. So that's what needs to get taken care of. It goes, the elephant in the room, which nobody talks about, is this: the police officers were the rollovers from the slave catchers in slavery. It's money. They're the first line of defense for getting you in that system. That's right. You cannot be made a slave unless you commit a crime.
13th Amendment.
So they let them get away with that. They can correct it. They can correct it.
And
that's
I agree
what
with
he said about the review board.
Yeah, let's talk about the review board. Krystal's been a big advocate of the review board, the Citizens Review Board. She really got to speak out about it really loudly when that Chad Colley tape was released. Remember, we were going to a lot of the meetings, and Krystal marched every Tuesday for a year. Tell me what the status is of the Citizens Review Board.
Well, we're still marching every Tuesday. We're at the courthouse every Tuesday at noon, getting people to sign the petition to get a civilian review board. We need 25,000 registered voters. You got to be a registered voter. You can't just sit around and wait for it to come out the sky. We have to get up and make the change. But the independent civilian review board that we want to see the city of Houston have to set a precedent for the nation, because we hold the worst record in the nation. Harris County is #1 for police brutality. Wow. New York is #2, and Houston is #3. We hold the #1.
I thought you said Houston was one.
Harris County is #1.
Oh, the sheriff's department.
Yes. New York Police Department #2, HPD #3. We need to set a precedent for the nation.
Wow.
Because if the district attorney's office won't press charges on the police officers, then a review board needs to be able to be independently set up to do that, elected by the people, not selected by political offices, because it hasn't worked. And if you can't subpoena somebody, they don't have to come. And if you don't hold any punishment or no punitive over them, it's not bothering them.
Let me talk to you about this. Now, I was told that after your group and you made a lot of noise and requested over and over, that the mayor decided to revamp the Citizens Review Board, because there had been one a long time ago, then it hadn't been active, and now there's another Citizens Review Board. And I've even been talked to about being on it. I think right now the way they're trying to do it is each new city council person gets to put somebody on the Citizens Review Board. They're going to have one from each district on it. And have you heard anything about that?
Yes. Like for 1 year since the Chad Holly tape, we've been advocating for a review board, but this has been going on for 30 years in Houston. Since Carl Hampton and Jose Campos Torres, people said we need a review board, independent, and we need blacks and browns in the department. Well, we got blacks and browns in the department, but the element of racism and injustice is still there. We still need an independent review board.
But talk to me about what the city's doing right now.
Before the pressure came on our picket to the mayor, she was the one that selected the review board, just the mayor. That's still an appointment. Now what she did is sort of like rearranging the seats on the Titanic. Instead of just her appointing people, her and the city council appoint people, but you still can't subpoena anybody. You still don't have subpoena power.
I understand that. I don't want to talk about that right now. I just want to find out.
That was the main difference.
I want to take it step by step. Let's just talk about the review board, then we'll talk about the subpoena power and the prosecution.
Right.
But on what is the current state of the review board? Right now they're trying to get one together. Is it your understanding that what I just said was correct, and that is each council person can select some? So basically we'll have one from Kingwood, we'll have one from 3rd Ward, Wanda Adams is 3rd Ward, Andrew Burke has a district, so every district, and we do have an integrated city council, so then we would have a review board, but the biggest thing that you want is the law to be changed so can have subpoena power, because right now the subpoena power comes from the district attorney's office and defense lawyers, and also the independent prosecutorial power.
Yes.
And one of the things that I've talked to people about is that the district attorney's office at any time can appoint a special prosecutor. It's up to the DA, the elected district attorney, to do that. So one of the suggestions that I've talked to some of the newly elected city council people is, once this new review board is set up, then you can take it to the district attorney, Pat Lycos, and say, in all due respect, we keep getting the same results. You know, the district attorney's office as it is keeps no billing the police officers. Maybe if we had an independent review board do it and had a special prosecutor appointed that's not someone that just left the DA's office, but that somebody's that's really an independent lawyer, but a very well-respected, qualified lawyer, prosecute that case and and then once they're a prosecutor, appointed as a prosecutor on this special case, then they would have subpoena power, because they'd have all the power of the government.
The DA's office can do that now if they wanted to.
No, and I know, but I'm just saying that's my suggestion to the city council people, and that's one of the reasons why they wanted to try to get me on the review board, because if we got something together, then we would actually take it to Pat Lycos and say, please make a public statement and just try your power out and say, let me have a special prosecutor on it so that there be more trust in Houston about what's happening, and see what happens.
Again, but they could do that now.
Yes, ma'am,
the district attorney can say no. The way the
well, I'm just saying that's the
I've always done it, and
yes, ma'am, and they could have, but no one's actually said it. So I'm putting it out there, and I'm saying let's approach Pat Lycos and see if that can happen in the future.
Pat Lycos, Johnny Holmes, Chuck Rosenthal, and all the district attorneys for the last 30 years have had the opportunity to appoint special prosecutors. People have even asked them to. Just like the grand jury process that they have now, they can present a case in a way where you would get an indictment. But even the way the law stands, and it goes back to what the caller said, we have to change the law. Right now they have it to where police are held to a lower standard than a regular person, but they're licensed to kill, and they have a track record of being violent and racist and profiling. So,
well, I do think there needs to be some balance because, we do want to give some deference to police officers because they put their lives on the line. But when young police officers are beating people, then those officers need to be looked at with scrutiny. They are held to a higher standard. That means you can't just go out and beat people, too.
Exactly.
We need to protect them so they don't get killed. We also don't want to give them a license just to bother unarmed people. And one of the things that bothers me is that then, it's going to be turned against Anthony and saying, well, he's had a past. Well, so we all had a past. A lot of people haven't been caught with their past. But it doesn't mean that he didn't have a right to ride a bicycle and be left alone that night and just be assumed, because he has a young face. So just to, you're not as young as you look, but you look young and you're not that big. So on a bike, you probably, the gang task force would profile you. Because how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Yeah, so you're 5'9", you're small. But they knocked 6 of your teeth out. Anybody else would be charged with that crime because that is an ag assault, because that's a permanent disfigurement.
Yes.
Let's take this call. Call, you're on. Thanks for calling.
Great show.
Who is this?
James.
Hey, James. You have a comment?
Yeah, ever since I heard about this last week on your show and also on Krystal's show following yours, I thought more than Trayvon Martin, more than Chad Hawley, this case could be the one that could bring down the whole system. The way I want to see it brought down. That what the police and the district attorney's office is getting away with their immunity from, I don't know what the answer to that is. I think maybe they should build a prison just where they can put them and be safe or whatever. Because I think Pat Lycos deserves credit for backing off the prosecution of trace cases, crack pipe cases, or whatever, and the right-wing think tank that gave her the cover for doing that. But I think their motives were that the city's $150 million in the hole. They can't afford it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But they should do it from a moral stance. It isn't right.
I agree. What solution do you see?
Anything like backing off trace cases
That was a great idea. I think Pat Lycos showed a lot of courage and stopped letting police officers arrest for trace cases. They used to arrest for crack pipe that just had residue in it, which is just like a Coke can that's empty, because, crackheads are going to keep the little pipe in case they get another crack rock. But don't arrest them for the crack pipe, you know what I mean? And so she had a battle with the police behind that, because the police wanted her to do that, because that ran the numbers up. That made it a lot of arrests. So I admired her for doing that, and also for giving defense lawyers police reports. I appreciate that. We used to have to go and write everything down, and I have to give her credit, because she started giving us the police reports, which police officers did not like.
Well, we could give her credit when she started indicting.
Well, I think we still need to work with it. I think that a lot of times the people who run you're a great advocate, but a lot of the advocates are preachers, and they only know so much, and they don't take lawyers like me with them, and I volunteer to go with them to talk to the Pat Lycos, because I know the law like she does. But if you know just enough to be dangerous, but you're the person at the table, you're the wrong person at the table. And so what I'm saying is that we need to have some of the right people at the table, people who have a little bit more knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I have volunteered with the Ministers Against Crime. I'll give them information, and then they'll go have the meeting, but don't take me to the meeting. And then they get out-talked because they don't know the back end of the law. They just know the part they asked me. Do you follow what I'm saying? I think Pat Lycos does want to do the right thing, but it has to be the right person talking to her.
Right.
Okay,
we need some unity.
We need some unity. That's exactly right. We need some unity, and we need all colors unified. When those meetings happened after Chad Hawley, you'd be surprised how many white people were there. I was shocked. Weren't you, Krystal?
No.
You weren't, because you keep the numbers. I don't. So even the Jose Campos Torres relatives came to the meeting, and that in his case was one of the landmark cases 30 years ago.
This has been going on a long time, and if we
but
really,
it's all colors,
if we
and they
really
have
want to be a first-class city, like they claim, the international city, then this needs to be dealt with, the police
department. Because I went
department.
to Chicago twice last year, and people can hate Obama, whatever, but President Obama. But let me tell you this. I'd been to Chicago before. Chicago is not tense and nervous like a big city like Houston. You feel comfortable going down the street. They've cleaned that city up. The downtown, they've planted plants everywhere. Minorities, majorities. Everybody is in a good mood. I mean, they want to make that a world-class city. And unfortunately, we're losing Continental to United. But my brother works, and he's my best friend, and he looks out for me. He's moving, and I'm sad about it, but I'm going to be excited about visiting that because they have a good upbeat. And what's something that Krystal said that's really true is if we want to be an international city where companies want to move to and people want to be here, we need to be more united as a community, black and white, and not want dirty cops. I mean, we need to have, we're all taxpayers, and we want to have honest police officers, and if they're young rookies doing wrong, we shouldn't cover up for them. Don't you agree, caller?
Yes, Vivian, I always agree with you. One other thing I'd like to discuss is the article about Anthony in Monday's Chronicle.
Okay, what did it say? What did you want to talk about on it?
Well, they didn't mention, they mentioned that maybe there were drugs involved, something like that, I think, but they didn't mention the part about knocking his teeth out. And I was wondering, was this story planted by the district attorney?
I don't know anything about that, but tell him what your injuries were. He had 56 stitches. Tell him what your injuries were.
Actually, I had 6 of my teeth knocked out. I got over 50-something stitches. I had stitches in my face. I had 2 black eyes, a fractured nose. You know, because they was just measuring me and they were just beating me in my face. I got kicked in my chest one time.
I mean, they almost killed him. For what? I mean, we're not talking about whether they put drugs on him or not. We're not going to get into that. Whether he had it or not, a cop's job is to arrest you, not to beat you. You know, this is not a system where we beat people. This is a system where if you're doing something wrong, you arrest them, you take them to jail, and you let them go to the next process, which is court. There was no circumstances in which he should be beat like that, and we shouldn't tolerate that in our civilized society.
Can you ask your caller a question for me?
Yeah, go ahead and ask me.
Sir, can I ask you a question? I would like to know, on that article, did it also mention that my lawyer had been brought up on three different felony charges too?
Yeah, this case has everything.
Let me tell you what's cool about the case. What made me interested in Anthony when he told me after the last week is that the day that the police officers were no-billed, his lawyer was indicted.
Same day.
Isn't that crazy? And she got arrested for the 3rd time. I was in Sam Houston State teaching a class to the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Trial College, and people start calling me Monday telling me Tiffany Mooney's been arrested again. I'm like, whoa. And Krystal, I don't like conspiracy theories, and although I love Krystal, sometimes I think it's too much conspiracy. I wasn't even listening when she was telling me, and then when I finally heard, I was like, oh my God, you were telling the truth, Krystal. That girl did get arrested, and his case, and the cops were no-billed on the same day that she gets arrested for a civil dispute. It has something to do with something civil, a complaint against a man made against his lawyer that she shouldn't even be. It's not even a crime. Lawyers get complaints all the time. So that's one thing. Then there's another criminal charge, and now the 3rd charge is the charge that they held her without bond. This is a lawyer. I told another lawyer when I was driving back last night. I said, "Wait a minute. We're going to get this little girl out of jail. I don't even know her." I said, but this is not right. And she got a bond today, and but it's something going on. And it's another dispute between a family case. This is what a case is about. A family case, you divorcing you hate each other. You have a restraining order against him, but the divorce decree, you have a restraining order against him, but the divorce decree says that the car goes to you. So you don't go pick up the car from the 3rd party like you're supposed to, and you leave the car at your lawyer's house for someone to come pick it up, and they charge her with theft of the car.
This is the same
district
attorney's office.
That's crazy.
This is what I'm saying. This is the
that
same
is crazy.
district attorney's office.
I can't speak to every case, but I can tell you that this case is just crazy. And why would you treat a lawyer like that? I mean, there is something sinister about this caller, and I'm not into conspiracy theories, but it's something very sinister about this.
This is life. This is not a theory. This is what's going on and happening to people. This is a human being that was beaten. I've been following this case and advocating with him. The DA, the special DA, that they appointed for those police officers.
Oh, for the police officers.
Yeah, told him that they was going to dismiss his case if he indicted the police officers.
Okay.
But instead of that, they indicted his lawyer and dismissed the police officers. That is grand. I can't say it's the Klan, but it's Klan-ish.
Wow.
You know. And even with the whole way, why would you arrest a lawyer in court with other lawyers? It's to make an example of her. for going against them. We can't count on the DA's office to do the right thing.
Because even when we went to court,
but my opinion is that you say we can't count on the DA's office, and I respect that, Krystal, but I think as citizens we should demand that the DA's office do the right thing because we pay the DA's salary. So I mean, we need to demand that it's right. And I want a system of more inclusion, and that, you know, instead of minority people feeling like we're not a part of the system and just letting people do what they want to do, I think we should make sure that the right things are done. We should vote and be counted. Don't you, caller?
Yes. Is Anthony's case set for trial?
yes,
Yeah, now his lawyer's in jail.
May 3rd.
May 3rd?
May 3rd, and I don't have the money to go and get another lawyer either, and they know that.
Wow.
I was wondering about this incomplete report in the Chronicle, if it was, if I can be a conspiracy.
Fabricated.
You can be a conspirator. What's your thoughts?
If that it was incomplete because it could possibly taint the jury.
Mm-hmm.
Taint the jury
Well,
again?
they didn't mention the assault on Anthony.
So it did, because it didn't mention the assault on Anthony?
They said, yeah, maybe he was guilty of something, but they didn't mention the part about his teeth getting knocked out, or the cops, what they did. Or I understand there was a cop that came to your rescue and did call an ambulance.
No, he actually, I'm gonna be honest with you. He did not come to my rescue because he actually beat on me too. But because they had, the extent was so bad when the officer flashed a flashlight on me,
And they saw
the
how
black
bad
officer felt that they had no choice but to call the fire department. And once they did call them, they came out and verified what the black officer was saying, and then
What'd
the
the
two
black officer
Caucasian,
say?
he was like, I figured that he would need to go to the hospital. And then so the Caucasian officer started arguing with them and telling them, he said, fuck that. We could take him to the county. They'll handle that shit down there. Those was his exact words.
Wow.
And Ms. King, the black officer that made them take him, he was the only one that was brought up on charges.
Yes,
and the Mexican,
him and the Hispanic
the two
officer.
white boys who
And
beat
that's the
him
ones
up,
who started it.
the ones who beat him the worst, who had to get their hands worked on in the hospital. See, they had to get their hands worked on in the hospital. They beat them so bad.
Wow.
That's why we need subpoena power. We can subpoena those
Officers' medical
EMTs
records.
and those nurses that saw him. Even the doctor wrote assaulted, attacked
The
on his
doctor wrote
prescription
that.
to make sure it was in the record.
And on the description of what happened to me, he put I was attacked and assaulted
And on their police report, they said they hit him once.
one time.
If you can hit a man one time and knock 6 teeth out and have to get his jawline so, then you don't need to be a police officer. You need to be a prize fighter.
Really? All right, caller, you want to make another comment before we hang up?
One other question for Anthony. How long, I know when something like that's going down, you have no sense of time or space, but how long do you think the assault lasted?
I mean, I think it lasted for probably about 40 minutes.
40? That's a long time. You think it lasted 40 minutes?
I mean, I'm going to put it like this. When they beat on me, when I finally came around, I say it had to be about 20 minutes later, but they drugged me after that. And, you know, I was going in and out, so I really don't remember a lot of that part after that, except when I would come around, I would actually be at different places. Like one time I was at my house, then I woke up, we was behind a place called the Creole Shack. Then I came around again, I was at the hospital. And
wow. Caller, thank you for your intelligent call and reading the paper and bringing us up to date with that article, because I hadn't seen it. Like I said, Monday and Tuesday, I was in Huntsville teaching a class at Sam Houston State. So thank you for calling. Any other closing comments that you want to ask?
Well, I want to say good luck to Anthony on his trial.
thank you.
And
How do you think you can find a fair jury in Harris County?
I don't know anything about Vortire, but I hope he gets a good one.
Do you think people are going to be prejudiced against him because of
Articles.
because of those articles and because of what do you think? What do you think the hardest hurdle will be for him?
Yes, on that point, yes.
Okay. Thank you for your call, and please keep watching us.
Oh, I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What do you think? What do you think the hardest part is going to be to his case?
Getting a lawyer, because they've arrested his lawyer. getting a good lawyer.
That is going to be a problem. We need to work something out on that. I'm going to be in a capital murder in April and May, but I might be able to find some good young lawyers to help me help you or something like that. We'll work something out. But I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you right now, but stay out of trouble. If you stay out of trouble, we'll try to work something out. Let me take one last call.
Okay.
Caller, you're on.
I'm on.
Yes, sir. You're on the radio. You're on the TV show.
Hello, Vivian King. How are you doing today?
Good. I got about 3 minutes, and we have to close it down.
Okay. Well, the only thing that I would say to the young man is that when he goes to trial, make sure that he just dresses professional, carry himself well. It sounds like he has a pretty solid case. I mean, if they can get the evidence in about the fact that he was brutally beaten, I think that he has a chance to beat that case.
Oh, he absolutely can get in the brutally beating because he was brutally beaten before he was arrested. So he gets to talk about that, absolutely. And we would need to subpoena the police officer's medical records. I mean, all of that can be subpoenaed. He doesn't have a lawyer right now, and I'm just realizing that having him on tonight, that since she's she's trying to defend her own life, so he'll definitely get a continuance. He'll have to.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, I hope it works out well for him. Vivian, I think you've done some CLEs at Thurgood Marshall. I saw you speak there, I believe.
Yeah. I volunteer everywhere. I speak everywhere. I hope you've seen me.
Yeah.
Are you a lawyer?
No, I'm in law school.
Okay.
I'm ready to finish up, and I enjoy listening to you speak. So keep doing a good job. You make the community look very well.
Okay, I appreciate you. Come volunteer, sit on one of my cases.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, we got to wrap it up. I think we just have 2 minutes. So let me let Krystal, because she didn't get to talk that much. I'm going to let you say something, and I'll say something. And if you have something, you can say it. So, Krystal, let me give you a minute.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you, Ms. King. And anybody watching the show, make sure you vote for Ms. King. This is the kind of representation we need in these courts. But as far as the community, everybody that's watching, support our Civilian Review Board, because we need to hold the system accountable. If we have 2 systems, it's better than the one that we have. That's right. And for Tashaka, support this, he changed his name to Tashaka.
Okay.
But to Anthony, just know that we're working on it, and it's hard, but we're gonna make justice come about the city. After 20, 30 years, we're gonna make it happen with this teamwork, and we need unity.
Yeah, and let me say this. I appreciate Anthony coming on telling his story, because it's tough to make a story. And I'll tell anybody's story, but you have to talk about your past. I appreciate all of the hard work. I've met Krystal in the community, and she's there for us all the time. She wants unity. I support her in that endeavor. I'm just really realizing tonight that he doesn't have a lawyer, but we're not going to leave him hanging. I have a lot of commitments, but I'm gonna make sure that something happens. Okay, so hold me to that. Call me, get my card. We're gonna make sure that you get the type of trial that you deserve. Okay.
Yes,
I can't guarantee the result, but we'll give you the kind of trial that you deserve in this. Please keep watching Truth and Justice with Vivian King. This is a show that I sponsor and bring to the community because I want to educate the community about the criminal justice system through true crime stories. I want us to be educated, involved, know who our 37 criminal judges are, and pay attention. Pay attention. I mean, there's good people and bad people. People change. But we are entitled to fairness. We're entitled to good police officers. We're entitled to good judges, good fair judges, good DAs. And I think they want to do the right thing, but we've just never held them accountable. So let's do that. Let's work together in this community to make Houston a world-class city. Okay? I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for watching, and please watch us next week, Truth and Justice with Vivian King.